Hello there, anyone who's in so far. Let me make sure that we are in fact live streaming properly. Give me a second. I'm not done yet. There it goes. Looks like live stream. And is the audio fine? Hello there, anyone who's in. Yeah, there you go. Let me make sure. Audio seems to be perfect. Okay. I'll wait around for a moment while we set up here. This is the Discord, by the way. If you don't have the Discord, I'm about to put the link to it in the comments, YouTube comments, and also Facebook. Let's go Twitch as well. Actually, I guess that they can get one as well. I don't use Twitch. I'm not big on Twitch, but it looks to be a really good streaming platform, so I've been using it. Let's go over to the Great Work, YouTube. To watching now. Okay, so yeah, the purpose Facebook. Of collab with Neil Hallinan. I'm gonna have to look that person up. So that's the Discord if anyone's not in it yet. Well. Neil Hallinan. This is why it's really good that we have live streams as well, so I can. Know who you people are pointing me at. Postural restoration trainer. That's okay. That's excellent. I'm gonna bookmark him and look him up. Another group that I was looking at working with was the Postural Restoration Institute, and there's also functional patterns, which I think you might have heard of if you've been listening to Mike Mew, because their stuff is about fascia and the anatomy trains. What's going to be really helpful is the fact that as I research and study this, I find out how many other people are researching and studying this. Not just the jaw stuff and the posture stuff, but also the breath work, the breathing work that we're going to get into. As I started teaching it, I found other people that are also teaching it. And so we'll bring them all on board as well, and we'll learn from them. So Twitch, multi-stream. I think you guys can see my chat here. Why is the multi-stream not showing me? Postural Restoration Institute is the community that Neil's in. Excellent. We should be working with them. Since you are already here, I'm gonna go and get started on what is our theory. What are we researching today? It's the fact that if we can get, and actually do please let me know more, Jay, about why you think I should talk to him. I'll see if I can find him, but I do need a good reason to talk to him rather than talking to the institute itself. I guess he's a YouTuber, so that might be just enough reason to do so as well. If we can cause motion at the sutures, which is what we're going to try and do with the breathing method that we'll be going into in the future, can that motion, what's the benefit of it? Will it cause growth, and can it restart growth? That is my theory, that the cranial bones in adults, they get locked up. They actually get locked up when you're a child. If you're a small child, if you're still an infant and those bones get locked up, it's called cranial stenosis, right? And it shows up, it's very obvious on the face if those things lock up early. Now, at a fundamental level, what is the difference between this, obviously a bad case, very young, and if the cranial bones jam up when you're a little bit older? What if you're 7 or 8 or 16, 14, and then your cranial bones start jamming up? And then you start getting the irregularities, you start getting clear indications that you're not fully developed or not fully grown in the skull. They're less obvious. That's why they don't call them cranial stenosis. They just say, oh, it's genetic, or they just will explain it away in some other function. But at a basic level, if the sutures, this is what cranial stenosis is the sutures closing prematurely, right? So you have this suture here, between the frontal bone and it's the coronal suture and the temporal. So if that closes early, it'll show up in the face as an asymmetry. Now you probably know adults that kind of look like this. Maybe not to that level, but what if these sutures, which they say close in adulthood, they say close in the teen years, and not fully ossify. They don't fully disappear, but they say that they stop serving as growth sites. So if you are a teenager or a child that's a little bit older, and those areas which should be serving as growth sites are not moving anymore, that's my theory. That is the theory that we're going to be working with here. It's the cranial motion that keeps all of these bones flexing and expanding and moving in and out with each other. With the cranial base, you got your sphenoid and your occiput, and those move and those keep the entire skull moving and flexing. And when that flexing motion stops, then the suture stops functioning correctly. Those bones might get jammed up against each other, and then they can't grow. And these are the surface level cranial bones, but we're talking about stuff that's like really deep in the cranial base. So like your SBJ, spinobasilar joint, that thing needs to be flexible. Actually, you got 4 bones down there before they start to fuse, and those should be moving the whole time. And if they're not moving the whole time, your maxilla and your jaw is hanging off of that structure. This whole area is not going to have the room to grow and move forward if the cranial base structure is not grown enough. Now, what is my theory for fixing this in adults and late teenagers? The idea is that even if the sutures have the issue where they're no longer moving and they've kind of gotten rigid and jammed up, if this is how the sutures actually function, by the way, it looks like this. It's not 2 plates against each other, it's interdigitation. Let me look that up actually. Interdigitation of the sutures. Interdigitation. I should probably have this stuff up, but I have the articles that we're going to be looking at. I have all those up, and that's what the sutures look like. They interdigitate. And if you imagine, say, a piece of aluminum, or you imagine a piece of cardboard, that if you want to tear it or move it, then the way that you do that, it's ineffective to just pull it apart. That's what like stuff like MSE does, or even to some degree AGA or just typical palate expansion, is they're just using force to go this way and pull them apart, which is very ineffective because the interdigitation doesn't want to do that. And that's why they're talking about with like MSE, you get a pop actually when you're doing the turning. Eventually it strains it enough that it just pops right open and probably damages the suture quite badly. Rather than do that, these sutures can flex and move against each other. So what if we could restore the movement pattern and get them moving in between each other so that they can serve as growth sites? Now, that theory is predicated on the idea that movement between the sutures actually helps bone growth. And that's the research that we're going to look over today in this live stream. Because the research here, I think, pretty clearly does point out, let me tell them people on Discord that we're live as well. We're live, and how do I tell people that? I've got 6 articles here, and I think there's more out there. This was just what I could get on short notice. And if you guys know research, that's why I love these live streams, because I haven't checked the comments for a second, but I'm going to check it. He's the most qualified. Jay says that Neil is the most qualified Postural Restoration Institute practitioner. Really? He's friends with Ron. Okay. Trying to work with them, but I don't have the money. Yeah, Buddy Boyle, please ask a question. That's what this is for. I will try and get into contact with them. Let me write those names down. Rob Huska, and I already put a bookmark of the other gentleman's name, and I'll do my best to get into contact with them. Because the project that I'm doing going forward, and the live stream is also so that I can bounce ideas off of everyone here, because that project will be paid, and that's one of the benefits of it, is the fact that like working with people at the PRI, and it's very expensive probably in many cases, is that I will get access to them and ask them the questions from the community. And I need everyone's feedback on how I'm going to balance that with also doing the free stuff for the great work, right? Because this is healthcare information. This matters a lot to me. So I want to make sure that if someone doesn't have the money to pay, whatever I'm going to launch it for under $100 off at the start for like lifetime access. I'll get into that later, to be honest. But I also want to make sure that someone who really can't afford it is going to have the great work as a free option, even though it might be a little bit harder to get access to the information through the great work. If you do, can you help me get work with them? I don't have cash because I'm a teen. Yeah, that's the issue. A lot of the great work viewers are teens, and then this new project that I'm going to be doing, a lot of their members are honestly older people. I'm dealing with people that have money, like for coaching. They have the ability to pay myself and others quite a bit to get this sort of help, especially people who do like cranial sacral therapy. They've been doing these therapies for a while. I can teach them a better way to do that. But can the other bones of the body which develop poorly? Yep, you know what, that's the thing. The other bones, like the long bones of the body, I think they would have to react to if the skull gets open again. Because here, you got your occiput here. No, other way. Occiput here and your sphenoid here. Actually, it could be either way. It depends on how you want to look at it. But just imagine this is the cranial base. And this is right here is the spine. My arms are the spine, right? As these are moving, sitting right here is the pituitary gland. Right above also your airway as well. And that secretes growth hormone. So the growth plates closing could theoretically be reopened if that hormone stimulation occurs. This is why I'm really excited. Like this project that I'm starting, the great work started a while ago. It's going to continue. I promise you, it's going to continue. It will always be here. It will always be free. The new project that I'm starting is because I want to do this for my whole life. Like I want this to be what I do, and I can only do that if I can get away from the desk job that I'm currently chained to. So I'm trying to get people to pay me for teaching this new breathing method, which I think will be revolutionary. This isn't about profit, to be quite honest. That's a side thing that comes with this, but I think this is going to be world changing, because if it is free too, that's the thing. Like if I say I invented a device and you can use this device, and I sell the device to you, and it fixes your palate and fixes the skull and fixes the jaws, then I can make money off that device. But what I'm actually teaching is breathing. So once you learn the breathing method, you should be able to teach it to others for free, and you can become a teacher yourself, which is what I'm hoping happens. Because if I teach people just how to control their own breath and fix their issues for free, I can't control who they teach that to, and that's a good thing. This should be the most exciting thing. Is that Eric Zhao says, I've yet to see an adult over 25 get any forward growth. Martin Jones, who we're going to be interviewing next week, next Wednesday is the interview that I have with him, he claims as an adult, I have scans, by the way, I won't be able to show them in this stream unless we go a little bit long, but he claims that as an adult, the dentist did want to bring his jaws forward with the dentist, and using holographic breathing, which is his breathing method, I can link everyone to that as well, because like I said about not wanting to only make money off of this, he's like my direct competitor in many ways. So the smart money thing for me would be not to let you guys know about him, or girls know about him, or everyone know about him. The smart money thing would be not to tell people about him. But for me, it's just most important that we solve this issue. And I think this is the way that we're going to solve it. I'm actually 100% convinced. I know this is the way we're going to solve it. I've seen the eye area changes myself. That's why I didn't show myself on stream before either, because like I didn't want it to be about my aesthetics. I wanted actually to fix my aesthetics completely and then show you the before and after scans and say, here, this is like complete evidence. But by the time I do that, it might be a year or 2 or 3 from now, and by that time I can charge anyone any amount of money, because like if I can show scans, my before and after is like have people not like kicking down the door. So that's why I'm launching this project now at like a really cheap price, and I want people to get into it now under $100, I promise, so that you have lifetime access, so that everyone who's been following the great work and following what's been going on for this whole time, you all deserve to be a part of what's going forward as well, and to have that free access. Eric Zhao, like, let me go back to it. Martin Jones was in his 40s when he claims that the dentist also said that you no longer need treatment. He was supposed to have treatment to bring his dentition forward and expand his maxilla. He paid attention to his maxilla with the breathing before holographic breathing started for him. And in paying attention to his maxilla, he noticed the sideways motion and a forwards motion. And he said that it clicked for him, and then over time, it slowly came forward. And I do think his is forward. I've seen his face. You can see his face on his YouTube channel too. He has a well-developed jaw and maxilla. He's older though. He's in his 60s, so aesthetically, like, you know, older people look older, but like it is well-developed. He also has another testimonial of a child, a young teenager, who was supposed to get, I believe it was double jaw surgery. And this is actually how I found him. That he was supposed to get double jaw surgery. He taught this child the breathing testimonial, or he has this breathing method. And he now has the testimonial from the child and the mother that the maxilla came forward, and the dentists themselves said, yeah, you no longer require the surgery. Buddy Boyle, I also think that the body has the ability to make up for lost development. That is, I see you guys are posting in the chat. I'm going to get to those for sure, and then we'll get right into the research. Let me do the first, how about I do that? Let me do the first article, because we're talking about, does restarting the motion, does that cause growth? So here's the research articles I've been able to find. You can't find them in humans for the most part. I wish I could find studies in humans. I wish more studies were being done. And this group that we're forming here now, this project that we're doing with the great work and the new project, I think it'll be called the Karna Dharma or the Karna Breathing or something like that. I want everyone in this to have success. I want you to have more success than I do, because I focus on my breathing, but I forget it sometimes. But I've had at least 2 students now that it's become subconscious for them. So other people are advancing faster than I am, which is good, because I have scans. I hope somebody out there also has scans, so that this group that we're forming now becomes that scientific proof that by restoring the breathing pattern, by releasing the traumas that are in your body, we can get the skull sutures moving again, and those skull sutures moving again should allow growth to happen again. So here you can see the title of the study: Responses of Intramembranous Bone and Sutures upon in vivo tensile and compressive loading. So I think, should I read it out? That was kind of the point of the stream. So you can just listen to it if you don't need to see me. Cranial vault and facial sutures interpose between mineralized bones of the skull. So it's going to mineralize when they're not moving, and may function analogously to appendular and cranial base growth plates. The cranial base is what we were talking about. However, unlike growth plates that are composed of blah 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 cartilage, they possess when I blah 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 stuff, I will be bringing in experts. Like, we talked to Mike Mew, we talked to people who will be able to really dig deep into the science. I'm a scientist, but I am not medically certified. I think I have to say that, right? Yeah, I'm not a doctor. This is what I do, though. Despite recently intensified effort, so this is on rabbits, and what they're doing is, when you have the MSE or you have the palatal force, usually it's just a force in one direction, right? It just pushes it apart. And so what all of these studies are studies of is, what if we alternate? So it's called REMIC, alternate rapid expansion, when it's MSE and stuff like that, is what if we don't just push out? What if we push out and then compress and then push out and then compress and then push out and then compress. So a rhythmic motion. What does that do to the suture? So for the rabbits, at 1 Newton and 8 Hertz, so they were applied to the maxilla 20 minutes a day over 12 consecutive days. 20 minutes a day only for 12 days. And so what they found was that the present data suggests that high frequency cyclic forces in either tension or compression induce modeling and growth changes in the cranial sutures. That's what we want. Due to the structural complexity of cranial vault and facial sutures, either tensile or compressive forces are likely transmitted as shear stresses and upregulate the genes and the gene products responsible for sutural growth. That second half is their hypothesis again. They ended off with kind of like a hypothesis. They said likely. But it's quite possibly true as well. I think everything fits together. You know what I'm saying? It's not A and B with the body. It's not A does this and then B happens. The body is a very complex system. So this movement's probably doing a lot of things. The important thing for us is that cyclic forces they have found induce modeling and growth changes in the cranial sutures. They only did this in rabbits. They only did this for 20 minutes a day over 12 days. You breathe 24/7. You breathe at least 6 times a minute, 24/7. So imagine what using the breath cycle force on your cranial sutures would do. If it's found in rabbits that 8 Hertz, 20 minutes a day, over 12 consecutive days. Hertz is obviously much faster than what we're talking about, right? That's 8 times per second, but only for 20 minutes. What if you're doing it at a lower intensity, but you're doing it 24/7? I think I get the point. You guys are everyone here is smart. So that's the first study. I'll go back to the chat for a second here. I hope I'm getting all the chat. I'm just getting stuff from YouTube right now. If you're on Facebook, I can't see it. So can the other bones of the body, yeah, that was the hormones. Can the mid-maxillary suture grow after being inactive for many years? Yeah, I can, for sure. That's actually what John Mew's theory is. That's what John Mew says that the BioBlock appliance does, is that it slowly and gently opens up the sutures again. The fact that the mid-maxillary suture, yeah, like it totally grows. And you're talking about the mid-palatal. There are multiple sutures like through the middle of the maxilla, not just in the palate. Of course, it extends further. I think all the circummaxillary sutures can be opened again, especially with cyclic forces. But I think we've well and proven at 22, yeah, easily. The idea that the mid-palatal suture completely fuses, like is immovable, that's just bad science. That's been disproven for such a long time, and people have been expanding their palates and the sutures for a long time as well. It should be done with gentle force, I think. I think John Mew is right that you don't want to do stuff like MSE because that causes scar tissue and it will damage the sutures. But can you open it up again? Yeah, for sure. With cyclic forces, I think especially I've talked to Mike about this actually, the possibility of cyclic forces in a palate expander. Back in the days when I was actually thinking of, selling a device that does this. Whereas actually I think you can do it for free using your breathing. Body boil, yeah, I think the body has the ability to make up for lost development. I 100% agree. I don't think you ever lose that capacity. I think that's the reason the cranial sutures never fuse, because if they were supposed to fuse, they would have in adults. They fuse, it's a sign of bad health. They fuse accidentally, if you get what I'm saying. I want to go into something deeper. This is what I'll go into in our Karna project as well. And that's why if you get the feeling behind the name Great Work, if you eat a piece of bread, or if you eat an apple, within 24 hours, that apple becomes your body. it becomes part of you. It becomes human. So if the creator of the body is within, if I can drink water or eat something, and my body can turn that into whatever it needs, it turns it into bone, right? Your current face and your whole structure was food that you ate. It didn't come out of, the ether. Not really, but your entire body right now, this is just food that you ate, and your body turned it into the body. It has that ability to develop. And right now it's in a sense of homeostasis. You're kind of stuck at the level of development that you are right now. And people once you're an adult, you're rigid. That's why children grow. Children are able to grow and change their growth direction because children aren't rigid. They're not mentally. Why am I showing my stream thing? Actually, I should because I gotta read the article. I gotta read the comments, so you guys are gonna see that. I don't have a second monitor yet. I will soon. Adults are rigid. Like your ego is very formed. We are dissolving the ego, by the way. That's what the breathing will do because the way you breathe and the way your posture is. I'm sure you guys have all heard that, if you stand with your shoulders back, you become more confident after like 5 minutes of doing that. That's because your posture is who you are. It really is. And the mental patterns and mental traumas that cause you to like curl up and have restricted breathing patterns, those are your egoic patterns in your history. Maybe you got hurt in your heart as a child, and so you can't take a full deep breath in, and that locks up your sternocleidomastoid, and that stops the cranial rhythm. So yeah, I do think that we can fix that as adults, because the creator is within us. The thing that generates this body is us. So it fully has the capacity to heal itself. The only breathing method is just to breathe slow and exhale longer. Jay, search up Patrick Mewing. I agree with people have been pointing at me at Patrick. I've heard of Patrick McEwen, Oxygen Advantage. I would read that book. If you guys have not read that book, have a look at it because it goes into the science. The only real but see, Jay, he's not going to talk about the fact that breathing also induces the cranial motion. And there's a lot of things that Patrick is right in everything that's in that book. And if we get bigger, hopefully we can have Patrick come on as well, and we can have a discussion with him. But breathe slow, exhale longer. That is one breathing method. So what we're going to teach is pranayama. It's control over the breathing, and there is no only one real breathing method. As you restore your breath, you're going to figure out how to do it, and that's what I'll teach people. My friend 24, this is, oh my god, I cannot pronounce that name. He mewed, did the works 5 years. Change in rib cage size. Yeah, see, there you go, rib cage size. This portion, this upper portion, it reflects your thoracic cavity. It reflects your chest. So if you want your maxilla to expand, your chest needs to expand as well. If your rib cage is all locked down, it won't. Thank you for that. You guys will experience that as well. If you follow me, keep doing this, your whole body will expand, to be quite honest. And that's a perfect antidote right there, that the rib cage, this is all locked down for most of us. Especially if your maxilla is recessed and your jaws are recessed, you probably have a really locked down thoracic cavity. Like your ribs are not moving much when you breathe. And to move the ribs, all of that hangs off of this skull, the cranium. How do you lift them? These lift with the muscles like the SCM, like the trapezius, that hang off of the skull and attach onto the rib cage. So that's how you lift this. And that's what we'll be learning. Let's go on to the second study though. Oh, this is actually the forum. Because here, if you have not been on the forum in a while, I think a lot of you probably have, that there's studies posted here about, actually that's kind of the point of the live stream. Let me go through the studies first and then we'll hop over to the forum. We'll do that. Okay. Opening of the circummaxillary sutures by alternate rapid maxillary expansion and constrictions. So their results, their conclusion, let's just go straight to the conclusion. This is actually done in cats. And so what they did was rapid maxillary expansion and alternative rapillary expansion, which is like the compression force. So they did that 1 millimeter a day for 1 week or 5 weeks at the end of the experiment. So they alternated. I kind of can't understand what they said here. Or 5 weeks of ultramic. Okay, sorry, there we go. They had one that was the control group, essentially, that they only did expansion. Whereas the other group, they did 5 weeks of alternative. So expanding and then contracting. So the result is that 5 weeks of alternative, so rhythmic movement, opened the circummaxillary sutures significantly more than 1 week of RME. So their conclusion was that alt-remic opens both the sagittal and coronal running circummaxillary sutures quantitatively more than RME. However, more than 5 weeks of alt-remic would be needed to increase the opening of the coronally running circummaxillary sutures. We can do more than 5 weeks, fellas and ladies and everyone. We can do 24/7 our whole lives, because we can do this by breathing. Are you guys following me here? Let me highlight this so I know where I was in the chat. Jay says you shouldn't be using the traps when breathing, it'll mess up the SCM. You should use all the muscles. I'll be teaching that. Every single muscle gets used in the breathing. Let me know in the chat, guys, if you understand what I'm saying here. That what these studies are saying is that the alternating movement definitely causes growth. It definitely, in these studies in rabbits and cats, and our sutures all work essentially the same way, that it definitely has a much bigger expansion and much bigger growth potential than just pushing apart. And how that would lead us to the conclusion that what if we could do that by breathing, because we breathe constantly. And if our breath can have these expansion and contraction forces on the skull, then it would cause our skulls to redevelop, basically. That's not even getting into the fact that this breathing, you have an intercranial fluid, right? The name of it escapes me, even though I've been saying it all week. Someone drop it in the chat if you remember. But the fluid, craniosacral fluid, the fluid that is in your brain and fills your entire cranial cavity, and it goes down into your spine all the way down to your sacrum. And that fluid has pressure cycles. So if we restart the cranial movement, that is the pump that causes the pressure difference as well. So that pressure difference will also be the force, on top of the fact that the sutures are getting all pushed apart and moved apart. Yeah, I understand that Neil and Jay saying that they say no. I understand that they probably have different ideas, but when their ideas actually cause people to restore their facial pattern, then yeah, I understand what their patterns are there. If someone else, I'm telling you for sure, if someone else restores the cranial form and the face, I'll point to them and say they know what they're doing. But I don't think Postural Restoration Institute has any cases like that, so I don't think that their theory is correct. I think you do breathe upwards. You breathe with your accessory muscles. Your diaphragm isn't actually a breathing muscle. That's incorrect. It's just a membrane. It just moves a lot. Everything else around it, your psoas, your SCMs, your trapezius, all of that expands your whole body, and the diaphragm just moves as a result. Yeah, thank you, Jay. Cerebrospinal fluid. So as we restart this motion with the breathing, because in the thoracic cavity and through the movement here, that pressure will increase as well, which will also be an internal force. So externally with the muscles, we're pulling the whole skull apart. Internally, we're increasing that cranial pressure, which will cause the expansion of the skull. Yeah, this stream will be saved and uploaded. We'll definitely be doing that. Okay, so let's move on to the third study. Role of cranial bone mobility in cranial compliance. So the abstract, this is that cerebral spinal fluid that we were talking about actually. So it's saying that how much pressure do you need, an increase in pressure, to actually cause a movement of the cranial bones at their sutures. So what they found was that cranial bones move in association with increases in ICV, which is intracranial volume, so like the pressure. It's not quite the pressure because they introduced new liquid there, but we can create the same amount of pressure just by, the pump. That's how fluids work. Using controlled bolus injections, so that's how they increased it. We show that these cranial bones move in association with increases in ICV, along with corresponding peak intracranial pressures and changes in intracranial pressures. So we propose that total cranial compliance depends on mobility of the intracranial fluid volumes of blood and cerebrospinal fluid when there's an increase in ICV. So that's what the breathing, that's the secondary effect of the breathing, or the primary, because it all goes together, that we're going to increase the pressure of the ICV. It also varies as a function of the cranial compliance attributable to the movement of the cranial bones at their sutures. So they say that the data indicates that although the cranial bones move apart a little bit, nominally 0.2 ml, with increases in the ICV. So at this amount of increased ICV, the bones move apart a little bit. So what they are concluding is essentially that, and I'm going to link these all to you as well so that you can have a read of them, that the intracranial pressure also causes movement at the sutures. But they're finding that it's the compliance of the sutures, whether or not the sutures move much, role of cranial mobility is determining whether or not you actually get that movement. So we're gonna attack this from both ends of what they're finding here. Not only are we gonna cause the cranial sutures to move because of the breathing, we're also gonna get that increased intracranial pressure that they talked about here as a result of that pumping motion. And if you're unfamiliar with cranial sacral therapy and Sutherland, this is their theory, and it's not proven because there's just not research going on. I tell you, I've been looking and I have storehouses of research. We'll do these streams in the future, but you would expect, like, when you read some of this stuff, it's like, oh, so who else studied this? And nobody else studied it. They just didn't research it any further. It's not a great look. Okay, so let's hear what Mike also had to say about this, Mike Mew. Before that, let me check the comments, actually. 1 second.
Reason worries me.
I'm going to skip to the end of the video because he talks about a couple things here. Is your project a course or a device? That's Eastside Dumbrell, thank you. It's a course. It's essentially a long-term project. This is what I'm going to do for my whole life, to be quite honest. So, initially, I'm going to charge it under $100 so that everyone who gets in now will have access to everything I do. And if we do something like a device, and if this gets really big, then I don't think we're going to do a device. There's no devices involved. This is your breathing. Everyone should be able to do this for free. You should be able to fix yourself at home for free. And once you've learned how to do this, you should be able to teach other people how to do it as well. Glorious Champion, can you please tell me what I have to do to fix the deviated septum without surgery? Yeah, right. See, this issue that this person had surgery and it went back right into the same place it was before. And they think it's from sleeping on one side. This is why I don't advocate for surgery, because it's not fixing the issue, and the body will go, it wants to be in a certain way. It doesn't want to be in that way, but you've constricted yourself in a certain way. Your traumas and the fascia, somebody else is going to talk about fascia if y'all have heard, hip shift, scoliosis. The fascia that's in your body tightens and restricts you in a certain way. So even if you surgically try to move it out of that way, it'll contract again. This was a big issue for me with mewing, because I found that when I was mewing, at the end of the day, I could feel that, like, this was wider. My palate was definitely wider. I was even getting like the diastema between my teeth every night. And then in the morning, it would go away. Then I'm like, okay, how do I fix my posture? And then I found out about fascia and anatomy trains, and the fact that posture is unconscious. It is your subconscious. So in order to fix your posture, we have to get into your subconscious mind and unwind you physically. And the deviated septum is essentially, it's not your septum's deviated. I think you probably already know this. It's not your septum's deviated. It's just this whole area hasn't grown enough. So your septum grew to its proper size, but it doesn't have enough space to fully express itself, so it deviates to fit into that small area. Yeah, and fix it without surgery. That's a big deal that I don't want people to go into surgery unless they absolutely need to. And we can fix this stuff just naturally. It's just awareness and paying attention to your breath. My eye area has gotten a lot better, folks. I'll tell you that. And I didn't want to show you my face until I was like gorgeous, but you know, you can tell if you got better looking. You can tell, and I've been able to tell because people do not treat me the same as they used to, even though I'm still not that good looking yet. Sam Peterson, I would really like to join the movement, and that's what I consider this. It's a movement. I'm going to be bringing other people along in this. You know, honestly, like if there's other coaches that can teach you better, I'm going to point you at them. I'm going to do my best to make sure that everyone benefits from this, because I think this is what will fix it. I think everyone here knows I've been in the community for a long time, generated a lot of the community myself as well. And everything about this logically, and I'm going to try to work through it with you logically as well. Logically, everything about this makes complete sense. And I've been speaking to experts about it, dentists and everyone. They say, yeah, theoretically it makes sense. And they say, do you have the studies and the evidence to back up what you're saying? And yes, we do, actually. We're going through them in the stream here. And we'll continue to go through them. There's a mountain of evidence that, like, logically, this makes sense. And most importantly, you will feel it. When we teach you this SCM breathing method, you start breathing with your sternocleidomastoid. And even more importantly, when we teach you the psoas, they both mirror each other. It's all important. But you're going to start feeling it in your face. We had one student on Discord who's already started to feel it. They sent me a message unprompted on Discord saying, my teeth are sore. What's going on with that? And I was like, yes, I know. That's how it was with me too. When you start breathing with your psoas, like down here, like you guys can't see that, but like down here in the bottom of your abdomen, and for some reason your entire maxilla feels like it's expanding, you'll be able to feel it. It's not kind of a buzzing feeling. It's not kind of, oh, I thought I felt this, or I thought I might have felt that. You feel it. And that's why I know this works. And I hope that you can all even do better than I do, and do it more often than I do, and get those effects faster than I have been able to. How do you heal trauma? Reina is asking. By psychological therapy or by fascial tissue therapy? There's a lot of ways. I'm going to teach you the way that I know how to do it, and I'm going to bring in other people. I'm working with other people, professionals, that they'll teach you their method of doing it. Everyone has a different way of working through trauma. And in many ways, you don't even have to work through it. The way that I'm ultimately proposing is that you don't even have to, I've met somebody who does really good work in this, because if you try to process each trauma individually, it'll take you a long time. And you could be dealing with generational trauma as well. So that's a lot to go through. Whereas if you simply observe the trauma, observe the pattern, it dissolves. That takes I don't want to say it takes a lot of awareness, it just takes a lot of ego dissolving to do that. Between this step and there, and you know what, you might want to have fun with it too. Like say you had your heart broken in the past, and you don't want to just get over it, you really want to cry it out, you can do that too. There's a lot of ways to get through the trauma. What this breathing method will do though, is it's going to let you identify how you're locked up. So if you're SEM, you can tell it's not lifting your chest, it's not firing, you can know that you're locked up in your chest. Or as you learn to breathe through your body, you're going to find out where you're locked up, and you'll find out what traumas are associated with it. The layers are so deep. There's just so much stuff that to consciously process it all would take you lifetimes. That's why I think these trauma release exercises and stuff they do, they aren't changing people's faces. They aren't completely transforming people, because if you're trying to go through it one by one, there's too much stuff to go through. You're going to have to learn how to unconsciously do it. If you can get your breath working unconsciously to unwind your body and unwind your trauma and your patterns, then you're doing that 24/7. So you don't even have to think about it. Your breathing pattern is just unwinding you. That's what we're hoping for. Are you talking about the stuff Wilhelm Reich found out? I've heard that name. Let me search it real quick. Reina says fascial. Yeah, fascial tissue therapy. Understood. Eric Zhao. So cyclic loading induces bone growth. Yes. Yeah. I'm glad we agree. Does this mean chewing or pushing hard with the tongue every few seconds? Yeah, theoretically. The thing is, though, the body's a tense. Sorry, I should read the full comment. Does this mean chewing or pushing hard with the tongue every few seconds will create a similar effect? Yes, but the body's a tensegrity structure. I think I'm gonna have to do a stream on this, because this is important to understand. Is that it all links in together? Does that make sense? The way I'm doing with my hands here, right? Just pretend it's all connected. So if one part here, let's say this finger, starts pushing up against this, I can push, I can put that effort in, but as soon as I stop with the effort, it's gonna go back to where it was, right? Because you can push and move your jaw, but your jaw is connected to the entire rest of your body. So if you got a lot of tightness going on in your hamstrings, your jaw is going right back to where it was. And it's not just your hamstrings, you got that tightness all through your body, and those traumas all through your body. So just pushing pressure in one place, that's why we're not getting those results in adults. I think that's why it works in children, because children are malleable. Their egos are not fully formed, they're not full of those rigid traumas that pull them in like that. And so, like, if you do the face mask stuff, that's why they're capable of getting healing that way, in a way that adults are not. So stop mobbing and HubConf. I love the names that you guys have here. Wilhelm Reich, I've heard of him. I'm going to search him in a second, but just to find out what you're saying. If you're open to different views on health and bones, you can maybe look in the work of, thank you. See, this is the point of the live streams too, because let me get Wilhelm Reich up on here, and we'll study these people together today. And we'll listen to Mike right after I'm done here as well. And hopefully I think we can get Mike on another live stream as well, with the community. Maybe John Mew too, because I'm not sure. Oh, Germanic New Medicine. Yes, I've heard of this gentleman. Yes, this is very related to what he's doing. Very, very related. If we could work with, I think this gentleman's passed away, but his son is continuing his work. We could find out the psychological trauma related to self-worth. It is self-worth, actually. I've heard in traditional Chinese medicine that the jaw is something with your personality, and the maxilla, like the jaw kind of relates more down to the bottom part of your body. This is kind of like a reflection, right? So if you picture, you got your body and you got your skull on top. It's as above, so below, so they reflect each other. If we could work with those people, I think we will in the future. I actually have no doubt that in the future we're going to be working with them. I talk to people who already do work with German New Medicine. Humming is good for sutural growth and change in the cranium, Jay said. I think Jay might have saw the Mewing cat clip article that I had up there. That's humming or making any sort of tonal sound likely does something. That's not what we'll be teaching here, but like if we could research that further, or even if you could study it yourself and let me know what's going on there. Because cats, the article that I brought up that was kind of seen there was, is there healing power in the cat's purr? And it was found that, yeah, it does seem that those are bone healing frequencies, which is a higher frequency. So if you could Om, like that's, people do Om chanting, right? Or any sort of chanting like that where it's like, oh, and it resonates through your whole body. And they say those cause healing. So resonance frequencies causing healing, quite possible. Not the direction we're taking in yet. But that's why I'm saying if everyone who gets in early, yeah, I'm not trying to pitch the project. Yeah, I am trying to pitch the project. I'm gonna pitch it now for under $100, so that the fact is that when we eventually get to German new medicine and integrating all these things into it, integrating whether resonance frequencies speed up this growth, I'm gonna give stuff for free on the great work because that's just what my heart tells me I should do. But if you really want to be like getting frontal access here, right? Like interviews with experts or like direct one-on-one time, not direct one-on-one, but at least group chat time, for all of this project going forward, because this is what I'm doing. This is what I do now. This is just what I do. So if you want all that access going forward, which will be expensive, like I've been told to charge a lot for it, and I will. But for under $100 now, when we launch this project, you will have access to as much of it as possible as a thank you for all the years that most of you have been on the great work and following what's been going on. And because you deserve it, like honestly, you do deserve it. If you've been invested for this long and paying attention for this long, then you deserve to know about all the best stuff that comes out. And even if it's not just for me, I swear to God, I will point you to whatever the best source is. It's more like an investment in me than just the breathing method. But I think this breathing method is what will fix all of us. I think it will fix all of us. Let's listen to Mike, then we're going to look at Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich, let me look at him. Doctor of Medicine. Sigmund Freud. Man who invented free love, good man. I think you would have to elaborate more than if this person is a psychologist. If he's talking about the trauma patterns that are in the body, yeah, I would agree with that. But you're going to have to elaborate more on what you meant then. Let's have a listen to Mike. I stopped him on a weird frame. I tend to do that.
The results were not dramatic, and we're currently not using it. In time, we are likely to try again in a more controlled, scientific manner. I certainly think that this concept holds promise. Now, in summary, I worry about using either system on the teeth. Since fluoride toothpaste and the knowledge of the decay process, most people lose their teeth from periodontal disease, which is effectively bone loss. So removing bone around the teeth for any reason worries me. I feel that sonic or ultrasonic could be of value to assisting changes in craniofacial form when used on the sutures, if used in conjunction with other approaches, and of course, good mewing. Never forget, it is all about what you do rather than what someone does for you or something does for you that counts.
And I have to echo that reasons I loved working with Mike was the fact that he understood that this isn't something that someone's going to be able to do for you. This is something you're going to have to do yourself. And I will teach you as best as I can, but this comes down to practice yourself. And you're going to fix yourself. Mike was talking about oscillation on the Great Work channel, of course. He was talking about high frequency stuff. We're talking about a lower frequency, but as we've established earlier in the stream, lower frequency also induces more bone growth. I wanted to give it's not a contradictory opinion, but Mike's opinion is that mewing and tongue posture is still a major part in this. I think it is too. But I think you don't force your tongue into position. I think your tongue's going to end up in position. All your muscles are going to end up in position the way they should be to anchor your breath. Your breath is your main function. It's not your eating. It's not how you look. It's not, what else do you do? It's not your hearing. Your breathing is your main function. All the way from like a single-celled organism all the way to what we are now, And all the way from birth to death, and even before you're born in the embryo, you're breathing. You're doing a cyclic motion to get all of that respiration to your cells. Because I'm going to bring in people who talk about carbon dioxide and all that as well. We're approaching an hour, so I will speed up. Don't worry. But that cellular respiration, you're just a bundle of cells. How does a cell breathe? A cell doesn't have lungs. It just does this. It just does this. This is billions of years of your evolution. This is life on our planet. Expand and contract. You are just you are billions of cells that are just expanding and contracting. They're all doing that. And you do it as a whole one big unit. I would be super interested if we could get direct measurements of this. I think we should be able to get direct measurements of it in the future. Yeah, your main function is to breathe. Everything else comes secondary. So if in order to breathe, your body has to kind of mess up your face or mess up your spine or mess up any other part of it in order to keep your breathing functioning, that's what it does, and that's what it did. So if we restore the breathing, I think the body will bounce back like that. Will the stream be uploaded? I think I said that. Asgar, we've all been brainwashed, yes, in many different ways. Usually we do it to ourselves. Do you have a link to Rye Gear's research on trauma? That was asked to somebody else. Graham Stoney, thank you for being here. I think we might have a look at what you said on the forum as well. There you are. I think that's you. Yeah, we'll run through some stuff quick and then look on the forum. And then I'm going to make a video about this because I have a much, a shorter video for those who just are on the channel out of the research that we've done today. If you guys know any other research, I keep saying guys, if the community knows any other research about oscillation, send it my way. Send all the research you know my way. Send people you want to talk to, people you want to ask questions, send them my way because I have a knack for getting hold of them and getting them on Twitch stream so that the community can live stream, or like getting them on video so that the community can ask them questions. Keeps jumping me back up to this topic. We don't want another Neymar claiming power, divine magic. Yeah, Enoch, exactly. I was actually thinking of doing a video on Neymar claiming power because that thing was that was quite clearly a scam. That's not what we're doing here though. Should you detox? I think this will detox. So Glorious Champion was asking that. Let me see. They do fixes asymmetry and compensations. Please search it up. I will, Jay. Like, since you brought it up a couple times, I promise you I will search up the Postural Restoration Institute. I really want to see if they have scans. I have scans of myself before. Should I take scans of myself now? Give me a little bit. I might. I trust scans. I don't trust pictures. But I do trust personal antidotes. I know that doesn't make so much sense, but people can tell if their body's changed. But for me, I think one thing is that I do have scans from before, and I'll have scans of after. Because I'm completely confident. Can't understate how confident I am that this is gonna work for me. It's already working for me, but I think like I can get it all the way there. I don't know how much long. It depends on how much attention I pay to my breath, and how much I get caught up doing other stuff. Like right now, I'm not doing the breathing method. I'm like fully in the stream. Whereas like a person I was teaching, they wake up doing that breathing and they're improving rapidly. So it's really on independent effort and personal effort and how much you become meditative and how much you can rewire your subconscious. I'm not breathing that way right now, but I feel like if I was breathing that way this whole time since I found out about it, I would have been fixed by now. But I've seen the difference in what I see in the mirror. I see a big difference, and the way that I'm treated, I see a big difference as well. So I have to think that changes have happened. Does having a lot of toxins in the body inhibit the bone growth? I'm not an expert on toxins in the body, so aluminum, mercury, this is Glorious Champion saying, pesticides. I'm not an expert on that. We'll bring an expert in. One issue that I need to warn people about, thank you for telling me that because I got to write that down before I teach this, is that when your muscles and your bones are locked up, the movement that's going on, the respiration that's going on, is supposed to flush those toxins out. Even just as, not even external toxins necessarily, as your normal function happens, your cells produce toxins, right? They produce waste and byproducts, and you're supposed to be flushing those out constantly. And when you jam up parts of your body through the trauma, that movement stops and that flushing stops. So as you get restarted with this breath that we're gonna learn, the SCM breathing, and I think I'm gonna call it the carnic breathing, but the name doesn't really matter. As we get restarted with that, you might feel sick because you got toxins and stuff that are locked up in places that haven't moved for a while. So as you restart movement in parts of your body and those start flowing again, then that's going to have to go through your lymphatic system and your kidneys, and all that filtering is going to have to happen. So thank you for reminding me that I have to warn people about that fact. You might feel worse before you feel better. Should you detox? Like, yeah, you should be drinking a lot of water and stuff like that. Neil Hallinan, Jay says, is an example of a before and after. Let's look him up. Trust me, if any of this stuff works, I will point people to it. Oh, Neil, this is the gentleman you already talked about. Is there a before and after? I think I might have seen him on YouTube already, actually. Before and after. Let's see. I believe him. Like, I do symmetrical, asymmetrical. Yeah. I see it. Those are things that can also be just the lens, but I'll believe him. Honestly, I'll believe him. And I'll have a talk with him. Let me bookmark the second part too, just to make sure that I do remember to go and talk to him. Graham Stoney, the research I've read on bone remodeling isn't limited to sutures. It can happen anywhere. What do you think? I would love to see your research on it, honestly. It's definitely not limited to sutures. The remodeling, the bone is always being kind of destroyed and remade. Like, you replace your skeleton, I'm sure you know. You replace your skeleton once every little while with the new food that you eat, and it gets recycled. I think that what we're going to trigger will cause bone remodeling throughout the entire bone. But if the bone wants to remodel and it can't because it's jammed at the sutures, that is kind of like the anti-signaling. You know what I'm saying? If it's saying, I have no more space to expand here, you're gonna have to stop whatever you're doing, right? So maybe the maxilla wants to expand further, but the cranial base and all the stuff around it, something's jammed up and it just can't go any further, and it's gonna get signaled to stop before it hurts itself, right? Have you seen those? There's like a image out there of a ram whose horn grew out like this and then grew back into its own face. It's kind of like that, because if your stuff is jammed up and your maxilla wants to keep expanding, it all stops at once so that nothing breaks, if you get what I'm saying here. I hope that made sense, Graham. We'd love to talk later. Yeah, Jay, I won't delete the stream. Eric Zhao, thank you. Purchase the course. You're purchasing lifetime access. That's what it is. I'm going to be doing this for my whole life. I'm going to be sleeplessly, like I've been doing for a while, pursuing research about this, pursuing the best people in this thing, and studying on myself and passing on that knowledge. Eventually, the price is going to go up because people are willing to pay for it. To be quite honest, people are willing. Because, you know, for me, I'm blessed. But like, this laptop sitting on a cooling pad because this laptop is not built for streaming, and I would be irresponsible if I paid for another one right now. So I hope you can't, that's not coming up too much on the microphone. But for some people, like, this is, you know, they'll spend a lot of money, no problem, right? It's not a big amount to them. I don't want to cater to those people at the start. I want to cater to the people that have been here for a long time and been researching this and studying this for a long time. So it's going to be under that $100 price point, and you will have lifetime access to whatever I'm doing within reason. Opinion on PMF magnetic field for this. I know somebody was looking at that on the forum. I haven't looked into that. Again though, in the future if I do and you purchase in, then we'll get that. So Reina says Wilhelm Reich said that trapped emotions. We're an hour and 5 actually. We're not that bad. I might go on for another half hour, guys and girls and everyone. Wilhelm Reich said that trapped emotions are stored in bodily tissues. Yes. Fascia. As electromagnetic energy, something like that. Yes, okay. And you can release emotions by manual therapy of fascia. Agree with everything there. This is something you're going to notice as you do the breathing. So the fascia is everything. Your bones are also fascia. Just consider it the connective tissue. Everything is connective tissue. And your central nervous system, to make that contract or to hold a position, it needs to give it like the electrical impulse to hold that position, because you're an electrical being. This is all, the central nervous system and the muscles all function through electricity, energy, if you want to call it that too. When you do this breathing and parts of you release, it'll feel electric. And that's why I feel so confident teaching this, because you will feel this and it will feel undeniable that when part of you that's been restricted and you get into there deep with the breathing, when it releases, it doesn't feel like a mechanical force releasing, although you can kind of hear it moving and stuff like that happens. Like you even hear cracks in the sutures and like pops and stuff like that happen. But the release feels like an electrical shimmering. And what that is it's that electrical impulse that was holding together that area of tissue. When it releases, the central nervous system electric impulse that was telling it to hold, that also releases. And that makes you more energetic actually, because you're spending a lot of energy contracting all this muscle tissue and tissue in your body that you don't need to contract. You're just holding on to trauma and locations, and that makes you tired. It really does. It makes you tired to be like, of course, if I tell you, hey, flex your bicep 24/7 for 5 months, it's going to tire your body out. You're currently flexing muscles all over your body that you don't even know you're flexing, and we're going to open them back up with the breathing, and you'll feel it. When they open, you'll feel it like an electric sensation. Morphic fields. Rupert Sheldrake. Okay, we'll look him up. Not today, but we promise I will look up everything. I would understand how electric fields work. I would need to see if there's research behind them, and eventually I guess we could even purchase one ourselves and try it. Why not? MAO3. Thank you. This is why I love these live streams. MA30K. Has your voice always been this deep? I can't believe I forgot that. No, my voice has not been this deep. This is recent, everyone. This is recent. I've been getting compliments on my voice. My voice was deep at times when I was very relaxed. But no, it was more nasally before. It was way worse. Yeah, I've been getting complimented on it. When I eliminated this tension and started doing this breathing exercise, my voice has definitely dropped down, and I think it'll drop down further, because as I talk now, I can still feel the tension that's up in here. That tension won't go away until the skull is fixed, I don't think. So those will happen at the same time. But no, my voice has deepened as a result of this. So exactly what do we have to do to look better? R1 says, focus on tongue posture alone is enough. Chewing, posture in general. I think you might have missed most of the stream, but that's okay. What we have to do is restart the breathing and stuff. Posture in general, I guess you could say that. Your posture is who you are. It's your subconscious mode of behaving. See, the stream jumps all the way to the bottom when someone comments. So that's the issue. So by your posture gets restricted through the traumas that you've been through and the ego that you built over the course of your life. And we're not only talking about changing how you look, we are changing who you are. I'm not the same person. I want everyone to know that. Like, as my appearance has changed and as all this has changed, who I am as a person has changed. I used to have anger issues. I used to be a very, very angry young man. It was with this breathing that I fixed my back. It was letting go of issues that I noticed that, because I used to have back spasms, crippling back spasms, and I noticed that as my anger went away, so did my back spasms. And of course it makes sense. When you're angry, you tense up, right? So my back would get all tensed up. So releasing the anger released my back, and I haven't had spasms in years, even though I used to get them a lot. And if releasing the anger can decompress my spine like that, releasing everything else will further decompress the spine and also the skull. Because I don't know why we think of the skull as separate. It's not. It's like a sperm cell, right? You know what I mean? It's like the tail and the head. It's all one thing. Your skull, your cranial base at the very least, your occiput and your sphenoid, don't think of them as separate from your spine. They are your spine. Graham Stoney, happy to see you streaming. Yeah, I'm really glad I did this. Do you know about the multi-wave oscillator by Tesla? And I would love to hear more about Tesla, what he does there. Let me copy that down. This is beautiful. Thank you. And all these things, I trust you that I will be researching them, and if they're worth talking more about, we will talk about them. Western Price, ancestral diet. I know people that will talk much better about the diet than I can, and I will bring them on to talk about it. Because it contradicts Ayurveda, I see. I understand what you're saying. I know Ayurveda people too. I'll let them duke it out. I don't want to get into diet. I think that's an issue I won't talk about. Is it harmful to start chewing a lot before you fix your asymmetry and trauma? Yeah, I do think it is, because if you look at, I don't want people to look at the body as a mechanical thing, because it's not, it's organic. But if you look at the mechanics of it, if you have a machine that's not working optimally, and it's kind of at an angle and the forces aren't being applied correctly, and then you start applying a lot of forces on it, you're more likely to break something than to fix anything, right? Yeah, always chew on the left sides. Nigirium, that's a name, that is quite the name. Does semen retention really help develop bone? I heard in the Hindu scripts that it says semen becomes bone. I'm an advocate of it because of the fact that I think a lot of your best nutrients go down there. It makes sense that your best nutrients will go down there, and I do retain. I do, as best as I can. Because you're simply losing nutrition. Your body needs all that stuff to function, and if you keep it in there, it will reabsorb into the body. That's also something that I won't personally be going deep into on this channel or on the project, but I can bring in people that talk about it. If in my project separate, the great work community though, this great work that we're on right now, this will be whatever the community wants. So even if I'm not 100% in on it, like the diet or semen retention, like I'm pretty advocate of semen retention, but like for diet and stuff like that, even if I don't want to talk about it, if the community wants to hear about it, then we'll bring people in to talk about it. We got 15 minutes left. We got 15 minutes left because I don't want this to go long enough that I feel like I'm wasting anyone's time. So let's go over the forum here. Extracorporeal shock therapy. See, this is, I think a lot of you might be already on the forum. No, there's no way. I don't want to just read a whole forum thread at you, to be honest. Static site, this is one that's really relevant though. This was posted by Sind a while ago, and I think this is a study that we've already covered here. Yeah, and people have talked about it. The conclusion is very encouraging. Daily spurts of cyclic load cause sutural strain throughout the skull. This regime likely enhances sutural growth and may be therapeutically useful. So I guess this is a good way to wrap around what the whole stream has been, is that cyclic forces, not constant pressure. Constant pressure is not nearly as effective at causing bone growth at the sutures as cyclic forces. And what the preposition is that in the future, what we're going to be learning, near future by the way, like within the next week, hopefully, is how to breathe in a way that causes the cyclic forces on your sutures and on your bones, and will restart the growth. Graham, yeah. Okay, let's see if we got anything else there. Swiss. Oh, we got one on Twitch. Greetings from Switzerland. Beautiful. That's already. Buddy Boyle, when is your course ready to join? I think the first lesson. I've given the first lesson to somebody, and they've got it down subconsciously now, and I'm trying to recruit more muscles into the thing from them as well. I think this week. It's gonna be a live class, and I have to compile it because I want to get you practicing the breathing. That's important, right? Because I don't want it to just be theory. I'm gonna start off the lesson practicing the breathing. So starting with your SCM, I'll start it right now. Here's your first lesson. Here's your first lesson. This SCM muscle, you can look it up. Let me look it up for you, actually. It goes from, that's for later. Okay. It goes from your collarbone. I think a lot of you already heard of it. You know what it is. Muscle. From your collarbone all the way up to your occiput. And does it make sense looking at this picture? These other muscles you'll see as well. We're going to get into them as well because they all play a role. But does it make sense looking at this picture that when your chest expands, this whole thing is coming up, it's going to get pulled up. What the common theory, which I think as we go on you'll find it more and more silly, is that the diaphragm just pulls this down and the air pressure causes everything to expand. Unless you're really breathing hard and then the accessory muscles come in. I don't think that the accessory muscles come in later. I think they're always active. So here you got your accessory. I think all of the muscles actually are active in pulling the body apart. And we're going to get into all of these in the class, and you'll learn how to activate them one by one and then activate them all together until it's subconscious. So when you breathe in, these muscles, this muscle here contracts, of course, right? So as it pulls up on the rib cage, I hope you can see my mouse. As it pulls up on the rib cage, where does it anchor? It anchors to the cranial base here. And so necessarily the cranial base gets pulled down as well. And it's not that are you doing that or not. You are doing that. Literally 100% of the time you are. Thank you, Swissar. I really appreciate that. I don't know how to use Twitch. I joined it and I really appreciate it. You are always breathing that way. At least when you take a breath in, your nervous system is sending the signal to your SCM to contract. But if your SCM muscle or your chest muscles in the area here, if they're locked up and blocked up by trauma and the inability to move through their range of motion, they'll get that signal to move, but they won't do anything. They'll just say, I'm busy, you know what I'm saying? And what we want to do is start activating the SCM again. So if you're standing up and your muscle activation is weak, you may need to lie down to do this. Maybe when you go to bed tonight, or maybe now. Lay down on a firm pillow or something firm against your head and notice from the back of your head, the muscle that goes down here and lifts up your chest. Can you feel it lifting up your chest with every in-breath? And I think for almost everyone, it's not a strong muscle. Let me have a evidence here. Sternocleidomastoid. You will notice that this muscle in good-looking people is very prominent. You might have noticed this in your day-to-day life, but people that have well-developed faces, like really good jawlines and everything looks gorgeous, this muscle is strong, is well-toned, because it's actually doing its job of lifting up the chest, and all these muscles are doing their jobs. And you'll notice that in yourself and others, that people that have faces that are kind of like putty also have necks that kind of look like putty. Their necks aren't well defined. So when this muscle is really active and doing its job, I mean, obviously she's doing a little pose here, but here you can see it from the front, right? It should be pretty obvious. This muscle is very prominent in people that are conventionally attractive, conventionally good looking. And we're going to reactivate that again. I hope that you can feel it. If you can't feel it yet, we're gonna make sure that you can feel it soon, or we'll get to the other muscles as well. So that's a meditation you can start right now. That's the first lesson. That lay down, feel the SEM, feel it pull your chest up, and you're gonna get to a blockage at some point. Unless your stuff's already really well developed, you're gonna get to a block at some point that you'll breathe in with that muscle, and then you can't actually breathe in any further, so your body will default back to your traumatized breathing pattern, like your restricted pattern. Because what's important for your body is to get that oxygen and the carbon dioxide and do that cycle. So if you try to breathe with the normal breathing pattern that you should have, and your body can't get that full breath in, it'll just default back to the other pattern. So what you're gonna try to do is breathe as much as possible from the start of the breath with the SEM, and then let it fall back into the other pattern. And then breathe as much as possible with the SEM, and then let it fall back into the other pattern. And that'll wake up your awareness of this muscle, and you'll cause this muscle to start waking up, so that in the upcoming few days, when you try to lift, like I can feel it right away. And not only can I feel the muscle, I can feel, like I actually had a little bit of a pop right there because I did it pretty strongly. I can feel it pull down on my occiput, and I can feel that all the way through my skull. And I think that once you get that feeling down, of it starts going through your skull, you guys will all, everyone here, the whole community will be on board with me, because it's undeniable that you can feel it through your skull once you start breathing like that. Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it pulling down on my occiput, and since the occiput joins with the sphenoid here, I can feel it coming up into my maxilla and my face. Did you work with LooksMax Doc? No, I haven't looked with LooksMax and people. I've tried to avoid that, to be quite honest. You will, I think looks are health. You'll get better looking, but there's no but, really. I just decided not to go in that avenue with it. So I think we covered everything. If you have any questions about the SEM breathing, that first lesson that I just kind of did there, please let me know. That's what the lesson's going to start off with, and then I'm going to get into the theory about how I need pictures. You know what I mean? I need pictures. I try to do 3D modeling so that I could explain this better, which we'll probably do in the future, which will probably be expensive for me to do, and probably be only available to people that are in the project, because that'll be my own creation. But if you get in now, then you'll have access to literally everything for a lifetime. Yeah, I think I'm going to start the lesson off with that, so that even if people don't get it, the people who at least get it right away, they can practice that during the entire course, and then I can ask them at the end of the lesson, the first lesson, like, how active is it? And I think for everyone else, I'm going to have to go over theory. That's my biggest worry with the course, actually, is what if I start telling people to breathe with their SEM and only like a quarter of the course gets it? And I might need to tell people to lie down and do it that way. But I've been impressed. I've already gotten students. I know it's kind of like I'm saying I don't have my first course yet. I already do have students. I've been teaching people about this, and they're getting it really quickly. And I think you will all surprise yourself. I think it's an idea whose time has come. Martin Jones says that this is evolution in breathing. I don't quite agree. I think that this is how we should have been breathing the whole time anyways, but I cannot wait. I hope you can start breathing that way right now that I've told you how to do, because once you start feeling it in your skull, and you start feeling it in your maxilla and your jaw, you'll know, and then we can all work together as a community to develop this further. Okay, I've taken enough of everyone's time. I'm going to take a lot more of it in the future, I hope. Thank you for being here for the first live stream. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your comments. I've bookmarked everything that has been put in the chat about people to look up. I will look them up. That's my job now. If people are going to be paying me, hopefully, for this, what you want me to do is my job. But right now, the job that I've assigned myself is to teach you how to do this breathing, because I think this will fix everything. I really know it'll fix everything. Martin Jones is going to be our first case study next week on Wednesday. I'll upload that video. and he'll tell you about his own personal case and the case of a young child whose maxillas got fixed using this. Okay. I don't know how to end